conversation. So that kind of
Yes.
talk is exactly what we need today. Thanks, guys. All right. Welcome to a Monday mental health chat. I am Tina. Dan is taking a mental health day, and so is the lovely Shelby Maxwell. So we will see them on another mental health chat, I am sure. But you get to have me today. If you are just now tuning in, or you don't know who I am Tina Rushing. I am the co-director of Punk Rock Saves Lives, and I honestly, the mental health section is kind of my baby and my favorite part because I deal with a lot of mental health things myself as a human being. I'm sorry, I just made it so I can see people's comments. So welcome. And I am going to introduce our lovely guest. Today we are pretty much going with our Badass Women campaign of August. And our first badass human will be this side of me. It's the opposite. Mirrors are weird. And the lovely Dee. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Dee Memo, and I am a mom to an almost 18-year-old with autism, and I am also a foster parent. I've been a foster parent for 15 years, and right now I'm not caring for any kids just because I'm trying to get my kiddo through senior year. But I've also been a policeman for probably most of my adult life, and I've worked with kids in gangs in Trenton, New Jersey, and with developing an urban garden and helping kids with difficult learning challenges and home environments. Sorry, I'm getting a little anxious.
No, listen, I'm anxious on every single one, so you are totally okay. That's amazing and sounds extremely, difficult, emotionally difficult. Broke up there for a moment. Okay, so I am going to move on to the lady to the bottom, which is Michelle.
Howdy. No. Shalom.
Okay.
Guten Tagen. So, my name is Michelle, and I am the mom of 3 boys, 2 of my own and 1 of my husband. So, it's my stepson. My oldest son is 12 and has severe ADHD. My younger son is going to be 11 in 2 days and is autistic. And then my husband's son, my stepson, is 6 and is a goofball. That's all he is. And I am an AmeriCorps member mentor where I go into a special kind of school called an alternative learning center where I help children that are not capable of succeeding in their everyday public learning system. So it's still part of the public schools, but it's just smaller, reduced, and they're able to function better because they have more one-on-one focus. So, yeah.
That is pretty amazing. Before we went on air, Dee asked a wonderful question to Michelle about how the school was handling resources and helping those kids during a time when they can't go physically to school. And I think it'd be kind of cool if you would restate what you told us behind the scenes.
Okay. So my school actually went above and beyond because a lot of schools in my district were doing food distribution from the school itself. But my school actually, we went and delivered directly to our students' homes baskets and boxes of food on top of their work, collected their work, sent them like little things in care packages like deck of cards, board games, just any coloring books, stuff to keep them entertained and let them know that we are still here. We still care. We wish we were all in school. It's not that we don't want to be there. We definitely want to be with our kids and we miss them. And it's heartbreaking to not know where they're at every day like we normally would. Because, like I said, my students are not normal students. Most of them come from very difficult backgrounds. So we worry about them a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would as well. Did you have any kind of extra resources, Dee, when everything closed down for you all?
Not really. I'm in South Dakota where they're pretending we don't have a pandemic.
Great.
So
that's fun.
When things closed down, school stopped. We went to distance learning. There were no real helps or supports for the first couple of weeks. And it's hard when you have a kiddo that's on an IEP or who has special needs and is used to getting services in school. And then they're not getting those services. And for my son, change is really hard. And to have to pivot as quickly as we did was a huge challenge.
I had the same issue with my son. Like, he was not able to do the work that they were sending because normally he's in his resource room, which means he's basically like 10 kids to a teacher. And instead, I was only really getting work from his main like his general ed teacher, which is work that's way above his learning style right now. So I was constantly in communication telling the teacher, like, hey, I'm not doing this with him. I found a whole separate program. I basically created my own learning program for my son out of frustration because the teachers weren't providing me with what I needed for him. So yeah.
The school district that my kiddo's in, they have two different styles of learning for high school, and my son's in what they call customized learning. So they kind of do their own thing at their own pace. But with the distance learning, when that came in, that kind of threw out his whole tract, and everybody went to the quote unquote traditional with hard due dates and things like that. And that's really hard no matter what. And my kiddo's smart, but he's a lot smarter than me with some things, and with all the technology that they're using, it was a steep learning curve for me in learning how to Zoom with his teachers and how to access the different sites, because with everything online, if you're not a tech whiz, it's stressful, it's anxiety provoking, and it just makes it hard for the whole family, I think.
How did you feel the communication was between you and the teachers? Like, were they actually responding to you?
His special ed teacher and I have a really great relationship, and most of his regular teachers were, we had one teacher that we just with before lockdown too. So, but I'm one of those. I'm from Jersey. Things. So I have a different experience than a lot of other parents, I think. And when you've got a kid, and you probably know this too, Michelle, when you've got a kid with special needs, you have to be on top of everything.
Oh yeah.
And
so I call myself like the IEP Nazi.
People's faces to make sure the IEP is out.
You became a slight robot for that last sentence.
Yeah, didn't catch it.
Can you repeat yourself for a moment? Your last thing that you said, I couldn't hear. D?
Me?
You, yeah, D.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was just saying to Michelle that, when you're a special needs parent, you need to be in people's faces, and you as an educator on top of it, how do you manage that fine line?
Repeat the question one more time. Let me think about it.
I am going to go in and I have better Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you're totally good. It happens. I have to be in one certain area of my house, or it gets super weird.
That's why I'm in the living room. I'm like right next to the router just to double check that I'm okay.
There you go.
The downside is now it's an open invitation for the dogs.
Yes!
That's a plus side. Yeah,
That's a great side.
Team dog. Well, cool. Perfect. So yeah, if you can repeat your question for Michelle, I honestly think she just needs you to say it again because she can't answer it right now.
Yeah, like my brain needs to like process it one more time just so like I get like a full understanding of what the question is.
Yeah. How do you balance being a special needs mom with being a teacher, and that fine line between, advocating for your kiddo and knowing what's on the flip side of it?
So I am lucky that my son does not go to school in the district that I work in. I'm very lucky about that part. I've taken several classes, so I know what can be in an IEP, but I like to step out. So I'm like, I honestly am an IEP Nazi. The teachers hate me. I don't care. That's fine. It's only IEP time that they hate me. So I request my IEP for my son the day before the meeting, if not 2 days before. Like I refuse to go to an IEP meeting unless I have that IEP physically in front of me prior to it. I then take it to my teacher friends that are like, they know autism way better than I do. And they will look over it and tell me what notes should be made on the IEP. And then I go into the meeting and I'm like, listen here, Mr., Mrs., principals, everyone. So my son's first year testing was last year. So 2 years ago, we had his first state testing IEP. And I got like every accommodation that they didn't even think of because they didn't even know that was possible for him. And they had to go and research it. And I'm like, how come I know this and you don't? So that part gets very frustrating, but I make sure like he's getting his needs met. So if you have any like just regular everyday teacher friends, like just friends that aren't really associated with your son's teachers as much, or maybe they're just friends or they know them, but they don't work directly with them, I highly suggest talking to them just so you get that input. So you're not feeling like you're stuck advocating for your son by yourself. You have that someone in your corner that you've already talked to verifying that you know you're right about something. Or maybe you're wrong and you thought you were right. And the teacher's going, there's something, you got something stuck in your brain up there that just shouldn't be there at all. Because I definitely have done that. Does that answer the question? I hope it does.
Absolutely.
I'm a little weird.
Understatement of the century. But I think that's kind of part of it, though, right? Like, you can be weird, you can be everything, but you're still doing everything you need to for your household and for your job. So that's...
I think my husband would debate on the whole household part, but yes. He's over there laughing at me.
Yes. I'm gonna go, and we did a little beforehand group chat for people who were not part of that. And Dee, I really liked your thing of the issues dealing with kiddos' anxiety over school. and whatever and however that looks like right now. So how is it going?
For us, we decided to do distance learning for the upcoming school year.
Can I ask why? I just want to know your general reasons.
For my kiddo, it just seems like it's going to be the best fit for him. He has a lot of anxiety about going back to school. Like I said, we are in South Dakota where it's basically nobody is taking the pandemic seriously. So we've got people who don't wear masks. Nobody practices social distancing. So he's got some issues with that. And then just he's not a morning person. And with distance learning in the spring, he was able to start a little bit later in the morning where he was at his best capabilities and best being able to pay attention. So that's a good fit for him. And plus he's a senior with a lot of electives and not a lot of serious classes. So
yeah,
that just seemed to have worked well. But, even if it wasn't pandemic, he wouldn't really be on campus the whole day anyway. So this was kind of the best of both worlds for us.
Now, I know he's 18, he's autistic. Does he understand everything that would mean if he did go back? Like, did you have a talk with him just explaining why, how, the ins and outs of what's going on with school and COVID and why you're doing distance?
Well, he's actually the one that made the choice to do distance.
Okay.
We had a very, very long conversation about it where, I'm an accountant by trade, so I'm into like the whole cost benefit analysis and everything. So we did a chart, these are the pluses about staying home and doing distance learning. These are the pluses about going to school. And when all was said and done, there were more benefits about being home than there were being on campus.
Yeah.
I get that.
With him being autistic, are you worried about his autoimmune system on top of it? Is that like one of the factors?
Not so much his, but we have some close family contacts that do have health issues. So that is a little bit of a concern, but that wasn't the driving force.
Got it.
It was more trying to just make his senior year as best as possible. Yeah. Because I have a feeling we're going to wind up with remote learning at some point anyway.
Yeah.
So this way we don't have to deal with change from one thing to another and then possibly go back to being on campus, which I think would be harder in the long run.
I will say that the school districts and where I live are highly supportive of making the decision based off of what's best for your family. So I am never, ever going to be a judgmental person if someone chooses virtual versus going in versus, well, I want my kid going full time. Though I will slightly judge, I'm not going to lie. If they want, I will slightly judge if the only reason why you want your kid to go back full time is because you're treating the school as a babysitter. I will say that because that's just not responsible right now during the pandemic that we have. It's just not. And we have a lot of those type of parents in this, not in my school. Well, maybe, I don't know. But in the general area that I live in, there's a handful of them, and it kind of rubs teachers the wrong way.
Yeah.
To be expected. It's like dropping your kids off at the pool during the summer, knowing that they're going to cause ruckus, but you leave them there because you think that the babysitters are the lifeguards. Doesn't work that way.
No, I agree. I've found it interesting with like a pandemic, the amount of like summer camps that have still been open.
Yeah.
And things of that sort. I mean, I get needing a place when you don't know, and I think that's a big worry for people. Like, you don't know how to handle going back to work yourself and kids not going back to work, like not going to school, and all of the above. So it's a hard juggle.
So for my children, I've only made the decision on one, which is my oldest. And we had a full-on talk one day about he understands that I'm at high risk. His brother's at a higher risk. He understands that he has to wear a mask. He's very responsible for wearing his mask. He understands. He sanitizes his hands. He understands it. And he's very, I may have made him slightly OCD about his hands and sneezing at this point, which I think is a good thing with him because he's gross. He never showers. He's gross. He's disgusting. He's a disgusting preteen boy. Gross. But you're laughing because you know him too well. That's why you're laughing, because he's so gross. So we made the decision that he is going to go back, and my district voted yesterday, my district and his school district, that they're starting off as hybrid. So he'll only be in school 2 days of the week and the 3 days virtual. And they'll be switching kids, and it'll be half the kids at one time and half the kids the other. So that makes me feel a little bit better about him. However, my son that's autistic I'm still very worrisome because he catches literally the smallest little bugs that are going around. And then they come to me because I'm autoimmune compromised, and it just kind of like swirls from there. So me and him are just constantly sick throughout the school year, and it never ends. Yeah, you can see. Tina will tell you I'm constantly sick. So I'm very worried about sending him back, but I also know because he is autistic, and this is going to be his first year of middle school. So on top of a pandemic, hybrid classes, he'll be entering into a new school with new teachers, and he needs that social responsibility that he desperately thrives for. Like, he needs to be able to socialize to learn.
Right.
And it's a very difficult decision to make.
It is. And I see that everywhere. And Dee, I don't know if you can hear me, but you
disappeared.
We lost you.
Can you make drink?
And I'll send a message.
Like peach tea.
Yes. But no, I think that's it's a smart decision to make, because I do believe that your youngest child of yours does.
We lost her.
Interaction. We did.
Thank you.
I think we had some Wi-Fi issues, which happens. It's happened to all of us. It happened to Dan the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I saw it. That was fun.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Hi, Dee. Oh, you're outside. It's nice and sunny where you are.
Yeah.
I have to say, I enjoy your location changes. I'm here for it. There we go. Welcome. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a really smart way to look at it, to look at the overall picture of how to make it safe, especially because your family, you guys are immune compromised out the wazoo.
And then actually, watching my middle son with his mask on, he'll keep it on. Let's start with this. First off, I'm surprised he keeps it on. But he sneezes, he coughs into it, and then he pulls it down and rubs it on his nose, and then puts the mask back on, because he just doesn't comprehend that you can't do that completely. And then there's the part of there that, yeah, it's not fun. And then there's the 6-year-old that I really don't get a say in, so I just sit back and watch and try to help where and when I can, which is a struggle sometimes, not gonna lie.
It is. That would be a struggle. I 100% agree. It is. It's hard. Dee, how is your son and everything good with just the pandemic in general, wearing a mask and doing everything we have to do right now?
The hardest thing for us has been just managing everything. Here, I want to show you off.
Yeah, show him off.
The child doesn't want to be online.
That's okay. I don't like being online either.
It's been keeping track of everything and making sure that everything gets done on a daily basis.
Right. It's hard. I'll be honest. I give it all to parents and teachers alike because I have struggled doing what I need to do on a daily basis over the last 5 months. So it's hard to keep track of everyone else. It really is. And I know I was making this conversation. I'm part of a women empowerment group. And in that group, we were talking about just like eating habits. And I was really excited. I did a bunch of hikes this weekend, so I was like hungry. I was actually hungry, so I ate like a normal person and not like the beginning of the pandemic when I would not eat anything for days and then binge eat when I realized I was starving.
Yeah, that sounds very you.
I know. It's not a good, healthy way to deal with things, but it's how it is. So I give a lot of props knowing that your kids have to eat all the time. Oh, yeah, you go, Michelle.
Dee, is there anything that your area is doing right now to help like families that are, because everyone's stuck at home, kind of, I don't know, it's really awkward and weird. I don't know how to describe it, but like West Virginia did a thing where like all families get food stamps. Every single family, if you live where you get free lunches, every family gets it for the summer. Is that going on there?
It was, but now that we're here, we go back to school next week in our district.
Ooh, okay.
What?
So that the summer lunch program stopped last week because they're transitioning back to getting the kitchens ready for the schools to open. But other than that, camps went on this summer and activities went on. The only thing that didn't happen were the local pools didn't open in Sioux Falls. But
really, that's the one thing. Pools here in Denver have been open, and it's been a reservation system, kind of like what the world is right now.
Yeah.
You reserve a spot, and honestly, one of my coworkers, she was showing me pictures because her and her kid loves going to the pool. There was like 12 people there. Like that is what they minimal 12 humans.
Yep. There are only 3 pools open in this area, and it's pools that usually no one goes to, and still no one's going to them. So it's kind of nice. It's weird. We just went camping, and the state park here has a pool, and no one ever really goes there unless it's super hot.
Yep.
So we purposely waited till after, like, when everyone usually leaves to go make dinner. That's when we went to the pool, and even then, there was like hardly anybody there. It was just really weird the whole time.
It's weird. Everything is here. Even in Denver, so it's like state parks out the wazoo. There's you can hike anywhere. Tons of things. We just found out this weekend that even the national park that we have here, it's a reservation system. You don't have a reservation, they won't let you in.
See, they don't do the reservations here, but they do stop at like a certain number, and each pool is different. Like there's this one pool where their maximum allotment of people is 25, and they still opened up for the summer, which is like blowing my mind on how a pool can afford that. But props to them for giving the kids in the area a place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was really hard during the spring when all the playgrounds and parks were closed here.
Oh, that was awful. Awful.
We have a bike trail that circles the city, and that was pretty much the only thing that was open to the public. And it was packed every weekend. But once they opened the parks, you started to see the number of people on the bike trail kind of go down each week.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. We had, I have to say, I'm just going to comment. Obviously, I just have a park next to my house where I walk my dogs. And the playground was cautioned off with caution tape
Oh.
everywhere. And I'm like, it just looks like a crime scene. like a ridiculous crime scene, and just asking for me to go on the playground.
Yep.
You know what the parks here are, Tina. Imagine what they look like here with caution tape around the trees.
I know.
It was a good old time. You realize how many kids actually ripped that caution tape off?
All of them. Yeah.
All of them. It was great. It was a grand old time.
It's been a really weird time, and I think that's the biggest thing about everything. And Dee made another point about, we talk a lot about resiliency, and I think that's a good moment, because it's 2020 is the biggest test of it all. But I liked how you put like how to encourage it and how to model it, because I think that's a lot harder to do than just kind of being there.
I don't know about you, Dee, but I think I have never been as creative of a parent as I have during this pandemic.
Anything that I had done previously got thrown out the window, and it's just a whole kind of learning it's like having an infant all over again.
Ooh.
And trying to figure out how to make everything work.
Yeah. It really, an infant that can talk and walk and is constantly hungry for big human food.
Yeah. And has their own opinions.
Oh, yeah. I always tell everyone, enjoy that before they start to talk and have their own opinions. When they start to have their own opinions, it all goes real downhill from there.
Yeah.
You're laughing because you have experienced my children and you know their opinions.
I have. I honestly, my dogs are going crazy. I think that's big, and I think the change. Is there anything that you guys have done to like help promote that kind of change or being able to adapt? I know it's hard. You talked about how change and it's hard. Is there anything you've tried to try to help it along?
I just was honest with, how I was feeling about everything, with the anxieties that I had about, how is the, financially, how is the pandemic going to affect us as a family? How is it going to affect my job? How's it going to affect, our day-to-day lives? And I think just being honest and upfront helped.
Yeah.
Because Mike talking about how he was feeling, and then he was able to kind of make a plan himself on how to deal with things.
I think that's really smart. Helping to get someone to make their own plan. I think that's huge.
Yeah. Especially because
there's a whole line of motorcycles that just went by.
Nice.
I like it. I like that you're doing that with him, because you said he's 18. He's on that cusp of becoming an adult himself and learning how to make those schedules and take on the responsibilities. So that's really, really smart and good. That's an amazing tip for parents of teenagers.
And parents of all teenagers.
Teenagers.
Because I feel like I didn't have that. What was that, Dee?
I keep reminding my son that, in less than a month, he will be a legal adult and he will have to make his own decisions.
Yeah.
As scary as it might be.
Right? That can be terrifying. How does that feel, for you? I feel that's terrifying for, now I would be nervous as can be.
I'm scared, but I also know that he's capable of making good choices.
Yeah.
I just the way his personality is. He thinks and reasons things through.
Oh, good.
Whereas I'm very impulsive.
Same.
Yeah.
And what about you, Michelle?
What about me? I don't know. Tina, what have I been doing during this pandemic that I usually don't do?
Camp.
Camp. We have been going outside a lot. We put a pool in our backyard. Honestly, I have been trying to find the most creative ways to get them off of those gosh darn video games and into being real humans. I am so sick. If anybody wants to steal the Switch from my house, I will pay you to take it out of my house. Walter.
See, I'm the opposite. That's my son's social contact, is talking to people online. And, he's a gamer and he has like his own Discord server and stuff.
Oh, cool.
So that's how he does his social interaction. So if I took that away, that takes away his social life.
See, my middle son, he goes into a bubble and he does not come out. And you mess with that bubble, he flips and it's awful. And then my older one becomes a hermit and goes into his room, and I have no clue what he's doing on that video games. He then starts talking to himself like he's a YouTuber, and I know he's not talking to other people. My children are really weird. I know they get it from me, but it's really intense.
Oh, you see, I'm the meanest mom ever because I make him have dinner with me every night.
Aw,
And
see.
we have to do something together every day just to keep him offline just a little bit.
Good. That's amazing.
And then, we've been doing a lot of hiking. Daphne, it's another dog. My neighbor's dog is out, and one of my dogs is not fond of it.
Obviously,
and lets
that
the
dog,
whole neighborhood know.
I would too. You tell him, Daphne. I honestly think having those moments of dinner
Yes.
is huge. Yeah, absolutely huge. Is that something you guys make sure to do, Michelle? Dinner?
I mean, we make dinner every night and they're not allowed to play their video games, but usually, like, the two of us are getting their food for them as they're eating their food. So then, as they're finishing their food, we're finally sitting down to eat, which is actually kind of nice because then we're able to eat just the two of us and finally have, like, alone time. And we do the same thing on weekends, COVID or no COVID, where, like, they all eat their breakfast, we then eat our breakfast, and we finish our coffee together. And that's, like, basically our personal downtime, even though, like, they're still running around the house and we're still yelling at them to do stuff. But we're still able to, like, just enjoy the company of just me and my husband over coffee because we're goofballs and weirdos. There is one big major change that has happened in our house during COVID is Tina will tell you my family is weird. We watch the news from 5 to 6:30, then we watch NBC's Nightly Report, then we watch Jeopardy, and then we watch the Wheel of Fortune. Like, we watch it as a family usually. And that has completely gone out the window because my husband's son, his mother gave birth back in May. May. And he was a nervous wreck because he thought his mom was going to get COVID and die from giving birth. So we have not been able to watch the news without any of them having panic attacks now. So the news is completely out the window and we just watch cartoons in the evening just so everyone is at least sitting together watching something. And we still have our movie nights that we usually do and kind of keeping the same evening nonsense schedule that we would, like Taco Tuesday, movie and Pizza Friday, popcorn Saturday. It's silly stuff.
One of the good things that's come out of the whole pandemic is my son's become more politically aware and more focused on how the government is responding to things and how different states are doing things differently.
That's cool.
I love that.
we've had some really great conversations about, why is it important to vote? And when he went to go register to vote, we had a big celebration. We went out for ice cream afterwards.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's kind of tapped into something different that either one of us thought was going to happen this year. And, he can tell you the difference between how our state is doing stuff versus how Minnesota and Nebraska and Iowa are doing things.
That's incredible, and honestly really encouraging for a young person to start seeing that.
That is definitely something that is very much different about the generation that's coming up right now. Is they are so politically aware compared to when we were kids. Like even me, like I don't remember caring as much about what the senator or the governor was doing. I just had to memorize their names, and I knew like the general information that was coming out, but I was never nearly, like I wasn't able to get into a debate at the age of 13. Right. There was no way. I could debate over which kind of chocolate was better, but like not why Trump should or shouldn't be president. Like it's crazy the stuff kids are focused on nowadays, all because of the stuff that they're seeing and hearing. And that's without adults forcing it upon them. That's them doing it on their own because they care.
It's 100% organic.
It is, and it's amazing.
And just the fact that, they're forming strong political opinions based on facts, not feelings.
Yes. And they're asking questions, like genuine questions. Like my sons were asking, why are the riots happening? And they actually were able to understand, like, the riots weren't riots. They were protests. And they understood the difference between a protest and a riot, and how the protests were coming violent and into riots, and it wasn't the actual protesters' faults. Like they both understood it, which is crazy because like I never would have thought my middle son that would understand such things, and he does. And then even the 6-year-old wants to know more things about politics, and it's just crazy the stuff that they want to know compared to Tina, who just protests with stamps. Tina was a protester.
Kindergarten. You're not wrong.
No.
But no, it gives me hope. And for many years, we would have a booth at festivals, which I miss dearly. We would have a booth next to our good friends at Headcount. And it was interesting to see the different generations who cared to listen to them, who would actually stop and go, yes, I just turned 18, like sign me up, I want to vote. Or the people who were a hard no. And it was interesting, like Lollapalooza in Chicago, a lot of young kids, tons of young kids. And it was always interesting to me, the people that had no interest whatsoever to like be able to use your voice to make a difference.
I'm old, so I remember when Rock the Vote happened.
Yeah.
And and they would be at like, the original Lollapalooza tour and stuff.
Yeah.
And they were always the one booth that never had a line.
Yep.
And I just didn't understand that.
No,
it's your greatest responsibility as a citizen is to cast a ballot.
I agree. To use your voice one way or another. And it was always interesting. The one thing I remember, and I firmly believe, to vote. And I don't care if you vote with an opinion that is different than mine. I would rather you use your voice and vote. I believe in it. I believe in it strongly. And that was the last year I did Lollapalooza. One of our friends, we would literally share a booth with Headcount. We're great friends. Like, we love them a lot. And I remember
I'm sorry, Bella's growling.
I
the sound of the dog.
my dog's playing. I can't get them to stop, which is kind of frustrating me.
But she thinks they're here because she's used to their noises, and she keeps running to the door, growling, thinking they're here.
They're not. They're
She's
not.
very confused.
They're very far away. Very far away. And I'm sorry. My two girls don't always play, but right now they're like, they can't stop. I try to pull them
Come on,
apart,
down.
and they won't stop. But what I was saying is, I remember
Come on.
distinctly
Come on, Dad.
someone using who they were going to vote for as a reason why they thought they wouldn't want it. Like, head count doesn't care if you're Republican or Democrat. They want you to use your voice. And I remember distinctly the guy goes, if I sign up, I'm going to vote for this person. And the guy in the booth was like, yeah, the guy was like, then sign up and vote.
Well, and what's strange is this is the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote.
Yeah.
Woo!
And there's really not a lot of stuff going on to celebrate that.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think that, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's only been 100 years since we've been able to share our voice. And as a mom, I mean, there are certain issues that, you know, I want to have heard and I want to have represented in our government. Whether, you know, you agree with me or don't agree with me, you know,
Yep.
just the fact that it's only been 100 years since we've been able to share our voices. You know, we can't take that for granted.
No, and we need to keep it going and push forward more. I agree. I could not agree more. That's one of the things we should celebrate, and it should be a bigger thing. And I wish, it's such a weird world, right? Like, it feels weird to, like, celebrate things or to bring up different whatnot, but you're so right. 100 years is a thing to push harder.
Everyone dresses like the mom in Mary Poppins with the sash.
Well, if you think about it, you know, women were granted the right to vote right after the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918, 1919. And look at the monumental changes that came out of that. How are we going to change the world after this pandemic is over?
I love that.
I do like that.
I love that a lot. And I think we're learning different things that we obviously should have already been doing. And I'm hoping we see a change. I hope we see a radical change from this. And especially with the fact that it's a year that we need to use our voices.
Yep.
And try to make a difference. One way or another. I do have to say, I see a lot more protests now. And not just for, like, everything. I do strongly believe we need to keep our foot on the gas. And we need to keep moving forward, that Black lives do matter. And all of the above, we need to keep pushing to actually make it real.
Yep.
But I have seen in Denver, we've been protesting more. It's been like a let's use our voice. They just cleaned up downtown with all of the people living in tents. Police came and just took it all away.
So what did all those people do that were living in tents?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What did they do? All of their ways of shelter were taken away. And some found other places. Some were able to go different, like, areas. But there's been a lot of protests downtown with people protesting how it was just a clean sweep.
Did they, like, all just... I'm so confused by this. Like, how do you... They just, like, threw the...
Yeah. They just threw it all away. And it's heartbreaking, and it's the middle of summer. Obviously, people need places.
And unfortunately, this is not it. It just doesn't happen in Denver.
I know. I definitely know, and things like that where it's even more clear we need to use our voice and we need to do more.
It's true. It's very, very true.
And I love that we got into that subject, like parenting and talking about how kids are learning it. We need to do better for our kids.
Well, we need to.
We also go ahead.
Yeah, we just need to model the behavior we want our kids to have.
It's true, but I personally don't talk about politics very much. I talk about it with my husband because we don't fight if our views don't match, but for the most part, they do. However, there's a lot of those people out there who are very
polarized.
Yep. Yes. And they put that foot down and they're like, this is it, this is it, this is it, which is how we get the Black Lives Matter stuff. It's because we have those racist people out there that are teaching these kids that as well. And they're coming up with that mindset. And that can go the same with politics. Yep. That kid could think a certain way until they finally realize that maybe there's something wrong, or they might never get to that point. So certain people, I feel like, just need to monitor what they say around their own kids, because you don't want them to necessarily be scarred by that. But if you feel that you're in like it's a healthy way that you talk about politics, good. Like, I'm down. Like I said, I told you before we started this, I'm a teacher. I play devil's advocate when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's just like in me.
I think it's good. And I do. I think I have this conversation a lot with Rob about let's normalize changing of opinions in a good way. Let's normalize wanting to learn information and then trying to be a better human from it. And I feel that is how we should take all of those political things is how am I a better human? How is it a human thing? Let's take it away from this and that, but an actual just being a good human.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how we can normalize that it's okay if you were taught differently and you've changed your opinion to make it better. And that's okay. And we can accept that and let you be a better person for it. Because I believe in good humans and I believe everyone has a chance and that no one's a lost cause.
Yeah. Very true.
Absolutely.
And I feel that's always the hardest part when we talk about polarized. Is it goes both ways. It's we think that someone who seems the opposite of us is a lost cause and there's no point. But in reality, there's even more point. Hi, puppies.
Daphne. She likes to stand on the deck.
Oh, we lost you for a moment. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there we go. Howdy.
Oh, it's perfect. I just want to say we've been about 53 minutes. We're so upset. I'm glad everyone is going to watch these. I will let everyone know. People typically watch these videos a lot later. And so if any questions, I'm sure Dee and Michelle will love to answer any questions that happen after these calls. We get people watching these weeks later, so just be ready for them. I will speak for everyone that we will answer any questions that exist. And I'll let you guys say if you have any last closing remarks or just thank yous. So Michelle, this way. Ha-ha.
Ha-ha. So number one thing to remember as a human and as a parent during this COVID right now is just, I don't like getting religious, but God only gives us as much as we can handle. I repeat that to myself multiple times a day, especially when I'm on the verge of yelling at my children. And Tina's thinking now. She's thinking, yeah. And adjust and proceed. That's all we can do right now. Just accept what has fallen into our laps. We don't want to, we don't like to, but it's all we can do because we don't have much control over it. Just adjust it and continue on. Figure out what you can do, what you do have control of, and just continue on with what you can do.
I love that. How about you, Dee?
I've been using the mantra of let it go. Just letting things go and just be in the moment and be present and try to be as positive as possible. Because,
yeah.
the more you overthink it, the worse it's going to be.
Yep.
And if you're anxious, that reflects in your kids too.
Oh, yes. I actually think you hit the nail on the head with be present. It's one of my favorite quotes from a movie. Is worrying means you suffer twice.
Love that.
And it's one of my favorites. And I think about, I'm a huge worrier and huge anxiety kind of person. But it's true. If you're in the moment, if you're in the present, what is there to worry about than what's in front of you?
Exactly.
We typically worry about what the present is going to do to our future.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're in the present, there's nothing to worry about because we're there.
I could go on and on about that, and I could keep you on here for like a whole another hour.
Yeah.
And that is when you write a blog for me. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm already working on like 3 other ones that I've yet to complete.
Ditto.
Good. Get them write them to me. But I want to thank everyone. This has actually been one of my favorite ones because I think being a mom is being a badass human being for 100%. It's hard. So to have this be one of our first real women talks for the mental health chat, I think is kind of perfect, and I really appreciate you guys for joining in. And I will definitely be asking opinions and stuff from you in the future. But I am going to get off of here. Please watch things, make comments, and these
if you want us back, we'll come back. Just saying.
Yes, I do.
Doesn't even have to be mom related.
That's what I like. That's exactly it. I am going to get off of here. You ladies, please stay on. I'm going to get off the live, and thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Bye.